Hello friends, it's Chromatic Sauce and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be tattooing this poppy. We also have some forget-me-nots, like little forget-me-nots in the background. We're adding this to a larger like side panel piece that we've been working on. I think her first appointment was, I want to say it was maybe like May of last year, so that rose that my hand's kind of blocking to the left, that one's since May of last year and it's currently February. Wait, is it? Yes, it's still February. So that one's been healed for a little while, and then there's a lily like at the bottom that you can't really see at all. That one's also been healed a year. I think we did both of those on the first session. But this is like a pretty big piece, so we're splitting it up. It might take, hopefully it doesn't take a crazy long time. I feel like we've got a huge bulk of it done at this point, but we've just been sort of adding big flowers for every appointment. But we left this little gap, or I did. I left a little gap for her, so she really wanted to fill this gap on this appointment. We're not doing like super large, like full day sessions. While it is nice to have like a full day session and get as much done as possible, I feel like especially for these bigger projects, it's not bad at all to like split it up. I think the first appointment, what? I said that's so weird. I think their first appointment might have been a full day appointment. I don't remember if she started like hurting a little bit, or I don't remember if it was like, I don't remember why, but we sort of decided that like a half day appointment would be better. I don't remember if it was because we did the poppy in like a half day and it was getting sore, you know, like the side of your hip is kind of a sensitive spot, and then like as we go up we're going, I don't know if we'll get quite as high as her rib cage, but like these are kind of sensitive areas, like the side of your hip, your butt cheek, kind of like towards that area. Like basically we wanted to split it up. I think also maybe her work schedule, like she's a little bit busy, so she needs to sleep. So I definitely don't mind splitting it up, but it does make it take a little bit longer when we're like spraying it out. But I really don't mind being able to see it, like the stuff that we've worked on last time, healed, settling in, and then we can take our time building the design. This time I kind of fleshed out more of like a final plan for it. It's still a little bit chaotic. I'm always chaotic, I feel like. But before this point we were kind of just doing like big flowers to start. I really like to get like bigger, bolder flowers in before I really go in with leaves and stuff. I like doing like things at the same time, so if I can do most of my leaves towards the end, I feel like it would help me with consistency and like just making sure the whole thing looks good and like uniform and like it's all one piece. I don't want, like for instance, if I did that rose on the bottom and added the leaves for the rose at the bottom, and then I finished the whole rest of the tattoo and we decided to add another rose or whatever the case is, I would just worry that the leaves would look different. I don't know, that's just like a paranoid thing in my head, because if I'm tattooing it, the odds are I would probably make a lot of the same decisions, so it would probably look fine, but that's just my overthinking way of thinking about it. But so before this point we were doing really big flowers. We started with that rose. Oh my gosh, I tried doing this voiceover a couple times, so I don't remember what I said. We started with that rose and lily for a bigger appointment, and then we did the peony on her hip. We only got like halfway through that one on the first appointment. Like I said, it was a pretty sore area, so we got through most of the darker tones of shading, but I was not able to really finish like shading out with the lighter gray tones on that appointment. And then the last appointment we had before this one, I added the rest of that light gray shading on the peony, and then I added that lily that's to the right of my hand right now, that like darker lily. And if you can notice, that sort of left us with this little gap here that I guess she's been like looking forward to fill. So I wasn't sure what we were doing today. I thought maybe we would just keep adding flowers up, but she was definitely ready to fill this gap. So I'm glad I sort of mapped out the rest of my plan a little bit more before this appointment, because we just decided to add a lily here. Whenever I was placing all these flowers, I was trying to pay attention to flow. You know, when you place stencils on the body, you don't want to just necessarily just slap it on there. So I'm looking at like the shape of her body when I'm doing it. Now you can see that butterfly there with the little flowers. That's obviously like a little bit of a different style from what we're doing. I still did the same technique with the stipple shading, but that one has a black outline. That was, I don't remember if that was, I'm so forgetful. I don't remember if that was her first tattoo ever, but it was definitely the first tattoo that I ever did on her. I think it was her first tattoo ever. Either way, I did that tattoo, I think, I want to say like a year and a half ago. It might be close to like 2 years now, maybe more. I'm not good at keeping track of time. But we did that tattoo a while ago, and then she said that she had always been like dreaming of this like big side panel piece. So we're sort of incorporating that. So that'll sort of, I feel like it already goes really well, to be honest, but we're sort of incorporating that butterfly floral in with this bigger floral side panel piece. And I definitely lost my train of thought a little bit right now. Oh yeah, I was talking about the shape and how it lays on the body. So whenever we place that, you know, I don't like doing things like straight up and down. So we sort of had that butterfly at an angle, so it's like sort of flying like up her side. I don't know if that was like the thought process whenever we initially placed it, but I always like doing things a little bit of an angle. I feel like it flows better, and I'm definitely glad we did it at an angle now that we've been adding all these other flowers, you know what I mean? So I just placed flowers around it, and I left that gap on purpose so that we could have a little bit more dimension in the piece. You know, I don't want it to be just really big flowers all like stacked on top of each other. I wanted to create sort of like separate sections of, maybe I could just like insert the Procreate file that I just drew up of like how I'm sort of visualizing the shape and the flow on her body, because I want to like create separate sections. Since it's such a large side panel piece, I don't necessarily want it to be one big chunk on her side. I want it to look complete when we're done. Obviously I want it to look complete. Like if you can only see her thigh, I want it to look like that flows. If you, I don't know in what circumstance you would only see like just her hip or whatever, but like if you're just looking at a certain spot on her body, like coming from her butt area, like that sort of has a flow towards the front of her body. And then going up, we're gonna work on flow like a little bit higher up. So we want the whole piece to be cohesive and with the flow, but I also want like the separate sections to work with that part of the body, if that makes sense. So because of that, I ended up with this little gap here. Just because, like I said, I didn't want it to be stacked on top of each other. I wanted to create interesting shapes, some visual interest. You know, art's always about like utilizing like negative space. I feel like especially tattooing, using negative space as like part of the design. So I sort of used the bigger flowers to create a framework of a certain shape, and then this is like a little bit more of an interesting shape than just like a solid column. So now I'm able to add these like smaller flowers in the gaps, and then after this, in a future appointment, we're gonna add leaves to this gap. So I feel like it also like adds a little bit of separation for that little butterfly that's already there, and then we can sort of like bridge the gap between these things while still having some flow and like keeping a little bit of visual interest and keeping the design dynamic while still being like just a bunch of flowers on her side. I don't know. I think it's really pretty. This is like this is probably like the biggest project I've been working on, or like that I have worked on. I don't know. It's not like super huge yet, but by the time it's done, it's gonna be a pretty impressive side panel, and I'm really excited that I have the chance to tattoo it. I'm so glad that she was open to like trusting my style and like what I wanted to do with it. She definitely sent me reference photos. I don't even remember the original reference photos she sent. But it was like this stipple shading, so I'm like super happy that I can translate it to my style so easily. Like, it's very much what I want to do. Like, when I first started tattooing, I really wanted to do flowers, like realistic roses were my jam. My first big tattoo that I have on myself is realistic roses. Now, it was color realism, but like I said, I don't know what order these videos are going up, but like I've said in other videos, wait, what did I say in other videos? Like I said in other videos, I love black and gray as much as I love color, especially like this style. This stipple, like fine line black and gray is my jam. It is so fun. I feel like it's like not relaxing, but it just comes easy to me, and I don't know, I'm so glad I get the opportunity to do a really big floral piece and sort of like have my way with it. Let my ability shine. I feel like realistic things is where my abilities shine. So if you see here, I guess I can explain sort of like how I'm doing the tattoo. So I think most of these ones, I don't remember if I used light or extra light, but for these flowers, I don't know if I always do it in every flower, but on her, in this tattoo, I outlined all the petals with a wash line first. I really like to give like whatever I'm doing some structure if I can, so like that line of giving that line, that's even if it's just a wash line, that's not like a harsh outline, it still gives me an edge. It gives me something to work off of. Using that edge and shading right up against the edge, creating solid tones with my like gray washes, I feel like helps the tattoo be a little bit crisp. You see a lot of people do black and gray, and it's like they have really fuzzy edges, or like the edge isn't super crisp. And I don't have the most experience of anyone doing black and gray. I'm sure I still have loads to learn. Like I said, only been tattooing 3 years now. But I really want to avoid that really, really blurry edge. And I feel like looking at the healed tattoos from the other ones I worked on, you can see the edges, you can see the definition in the petals. So that's exactly what I was going for. So yes, I've been doing a wash line to sort of give me an edge to work off of. That way I can have distinct shapes and just hopefully make a really solid tattoo. So once I do my wash outline for the whole thing, then I just hop straight in with black. You always want to, I learned in art school, I did art school for a couple years. My art teacher was like, or my drawing one professor was like, you always got to get your blacks in first. You know, he would set up a still life and he's like, get your blacks in first, because your blacks are your darkest tones, and it sort of paves the way for all the rest of your tones. So if you start going with your light washes and your light tones first, you're not going to know like how much depth to put into them. And once you actually do get the black in, they could be washed out. So I feel like especially for tattooing, that sort of lesson has been really applicable for me, because I always get the black. First of all, in tattooing, usually most people do black first anyway, so it definitely came natural in that way. For how I learned how to tattoo, separate from drawing in general, but I still feel like it really rings true to get your blacks in first. You want to get the skeleton in, the black is the only tone that is going to heal true to tone. Most gray washes, you can pack solid, like you can pack a light gray wash solid to the point where they go home and that light gray wash almost looks black, but once it heals and settles in, especially over the next couple years, that light gray wash is going to lighten up into a light tone. That gray wash, no matter how many times you go over it, at least in one session, if you're only going over it with a light gray wash, it's only going to be light. It won't have a super solid structure. So I use that to make sure I'm using my blacks to sort of capture all the tones, all the shapes. I want to use the black to capture the majority of the definition in the tattoo. Now for a flower, like with the really light edges, I play around with edges when it's supposed to be a light edge. I don't necessarily use black for an edge if it's supposed to be a light flower or something like that. But the black is giving you the framework, so when you step back after the black shading is done, it's a solid shape, it's a recognizable image in general, and then I use my gray tones after that to sort of backfill and saturate. When it comes to using black and then gray tones to like saturate afterwards, a black and gray is a little bit easier than color for this because the gray wash is actually made with black pigments. So if you're doing color and you're trying to get the structure with black, that black structure is way more important because color is more likely to fade, it's more likely to blur, so that using black for the structure, even if it's somehow with a gray wash, it's going to stay in the skin better than color. So I use black for the structure in terms of depth and shape a lot of the time, but the gray wash, even though it'll fade and lighten up, I can still use that for like certain edges and stuff. The main thing I focus on in that scenario is saturation. If your tattoo is saturated and it's a gray wash, you can still get a pretty crisp, solid edge. You just have to make sure it's solid. A lot of people do black and gray and it's a little wishy-washy. They want their light tone and they sort of just brush it in there and it looks like a light tone. But with any tattoo, my main focus is like saturation. So even when I'm doing gray tones, I'm not going for a super gray feathery tone right when they walk out the door. I'm going for saturation. I want it to heal up, and 5 years from now that gray tone that I put in is still there, because more often than not people get gray tattoos. More often than not people get black and gray tattoos, and most of those like light gray tones just wash out, they fall out. That's why a lot of really good tattoo artists will say if you think your tattoo is too dark when the client leaves, it's probably good. If you don't think it's too dark when it leaves, it's probably not dark enough. I don't know, that's just kind of like the thing I've heard. So even with this peppery stipple shade black and gray, fine line black and gray, I don't find I need a mag as long as I'm just focusing on backfilling, saturating, darkening it up. This poppy is in the background. It's like layered behind these other flowers that have a little bit more brightness, a little bit more highlight. So I'm definitely not being afraid to saturate with my lighter gray tones. It stays pretty open until I get, I think, past the medium gray tone. Then I'm not really afraid to like deepen it up because I want it to fall back. I want it to go into the background of what the other flowers are doing. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of the video. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think about this, what you think about tattooing in general. If you're a tattoo artist, I'd love to know any of your tips and tricks. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I'm definitely open to learning more. And I'd love to do more things like this, so definitely reach out to me on my website or my Instagram. Everything's linked down below, so definitely check the description, comment, like, share, subscribe, hit me up for a tattoo. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Check out my other content. I'm bound to have a lot more in the coming years of my life. Anyway, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you. See you in the next one. Bye. Is it weird that I'm kissing you? I'm not really kissing you. I'm just making kissy noises because I'm not really sure what else to do to fill this time. Yep. It's cute. It's a cute little tattoo. Okay, bye.